Big question today. Are more US sanctions about to hit India? Donald Trump has dropped hints of phase 2 and even phase 3 sanctions, and that could shake up our economy, trade, and global standing. At the center of it all, India's purchase of Russian oil. In this video, we'll cut through the noise, break down what Trump's words really mean, which sectors could feel the heat, and how this might affect you and me in everyday life. Trump has cranked up the heat on India, warning of what he calls big problems if we keep buying oil from Russia. And he's already made the first move, phase 1 sanctions. A massive 50% tariff slapped on Indian exports, textiles, gems, chemicals, seafood, you name it. Trump says this is just the start, with phase 2 and 3 ready to roll. India calls it unfair. America calls it tough action. What's clear? The trade battle lines are being drawn. Phase 1 sanctions are hitting India where it hurts most, our export economy. Since 27 August, the US has doubled down with tariffs that push duties on Indian goods to a punishing 50%. That's huge, especially since America is our biggest export market, worth over $87 billion just last year. The impact? Textiles and garments are losing their edge, gems and jewelry are under fire, chemicals and even pharma are getting more expensive, seafood orders are shrinking, and small businesses in leather and carpets are taking massive hits. Millions of jobs are at risk, exporters are furious, and public outrage is growing. India insists it won't back down, but the economic pressure is mounting fast. Trump's tariff war may just be getting started. The US has already slapped 50% duties on most Indian exports, but now even more sectors could come under fire if talks break down or India sticks with Russian oil. Textiles, gems, leather, chemicals, seafood, even auto components, all are in Washington's crosshairs. These aren't small industries. They power India's $434 billion export engine. Experts warn the fallout could slash up to $50 billion in trade, threaten hundreds of thousands of jobs, and drag down our GDP. For India's factories, MSMEs, and workers, the uncertainty is only growing, and the stakes couldn't be higher. India's most vital industries are now under the shadow of US sanctions. Pharma, our pride as the pharmacy of the world, supplies nearly half of America's generic drugs. While exempt for now, tariffs could disrupt $10 billion in exports and even drive up medicine costs in the US itself. Electronics and semiconductors, the backbone of our tech future, also face uncertainty. Textiles, worth $40 billion and employing millions, risk losing ground to rivals like Bangladesh and Vietnam. And for leather, carpets, and MSMEs, tariffs threaten to wipe out years of progress, hitting rural artisans the hardest. Big picture. Sanctions could drag India's growth by almost 1% and put hundreds of thousands of jobs on the line. The stakes couldn't be higher. Sanctions haven't just hit trade. They've pushed India's relations to their lowest point in decades. What was once a growing strategic partnership under the Quad is now clouded by tariffs and mistrust. New Delhi has condemned Trump's 50% tariff as unfair, with Modi even cancelling planned US visits and key summits. Beyond trade, deeper rifts are emerging over India's multipolar foreign policy and ties with Russia. Defense deals are still officially on track, but the atmosphere of mistrust threatens agreements like COMCASA, BECA, and LEMOA. Experts warn, if tensions aren't fixed soon, both nations risk losing ground in the Indo-Pacific and weakening efforts to counterbalance China's rise. Senior Congress leader Shashi Tharoor hasn't held back, calling Trump's sanctions on India unjust and unfair. He points out that India's oil trade with Russia follows global rules, while even bigger buyers like Europe and China aren't hit the same way. Tharoor argues these measures endanger not just trade, but the entire India's partnership. He urges India to hit back with reciprocal tariffs, diversify markets, and defend its strategic autonomy. His warning is sharp: push too far, and Washington risks driving India closer to China and Russia, unraveling decades of trust and cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. For both nations, the cost of escalation could be far greater than the tariffs themselves. The tariffs are just the beginning. India now faces potential legal and financial sanctions that could hit banks and companies dealing with Russia, blocking access to US dollars, loans, and clearing systems. That would isolate key parts of India's financial network, disrupt investments, and make international trade far more costly. Combined with tariff losses, experts warn GDP growth could drop 0.2% to 0.8%, while jobs in textiles, gems, and leather are at risk. India is fighting back, streamlining GST, easing monetary policy, and leaning on BRICS to reduce dollar dependence, all aimed at protecting growth and safeguarding strategic economic autonomy. India isn't standing still. In response to tariffs and looming financial sanctions, the country is shifting its reserves away from heavy US Treasury holdings toward gold, a tried-and-true safe haven. These gold reserves act as a financial shield, supporting the rupee, providing liquidity if dollar access is cut off, and signaling India's commitment to long-term economic independence. At the same time, India is promoting trade in other currencies, pushing self-reliance in key industries, diversifying exports, and strengthening ties with BRICS and Indo-Pacific partners. It's a strategic mix of risk management today and resilience for tomorrow. India's foreign policy in 2025 is all about sovereignty and strategic autonomy. Balancing relations with the US, Russia, and China, New Delhi makes independent decisions on defense, energy, and trade, without bowing to external pressure. A key flashpoint, Russian oil. The US wants India to stop buying, but India insists its imports are transparent, legal, and crucial for energy security and economic growth. While this stance has triggered tariffs and friction, India remains firm. Strategic autonomy isn't negotiable, and it will continue engaging globally on its own terms, strengthening ties with BRICS, the Quad, and other partners. In response to growing US pressure and a shifting global landscape, India is recalibrating its foreign policy for stability. It's leveraging defense agreements like COMCASA, BECA, and LEMOA for military cooperation and intelligence sharing, while also engaging with multilateral forums like the SCO to balance Western and Eurasian ties. Prime Minister Modi's return to key summits and meetings with global leaders signals India's push for pragmatic diplomacy, conflict de-escalation, and economic stability. By modernizing defense, diversifying trade and energy partnerships, and maintaining strategic autonomy, India is charting an independent course that strengthens its global role amid rising geopolitical tensions. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Policy 360 for more updates and in-depth analysis on India's economy, foreign policy, and global affairs. Stay informed, and we'll see you in the next video.